Imagine a thought so strange, it bends reality itself. A concept so simple, yet impossible to solve. What if everything you knew was an illusion? This is the nature of paradoxes, ideas that seem true and false at the same time. But what if I told you, this paradox could change how you see reality forever? The Grandfather Paradox. What if you could rewrite history, but in doing so, erase yourself? Imagine standing at the edge of a moment that birthed your existence, a single conversation, a glance, a decision, and with one gesture, you unravel it all. The Grandfather Paradox is not just a riddle of time travel, it's a mirror held to the fragility of reality itself. Close your eyes. Picture this. You've built a machine, a doorway to the past. You step through, trembling, into a world of sepia tones and whispered memories. You find him, your grandfather, young, vibrant, unaware of the future he will sculpt. And then, you pull the trigger. But why? Revenge, curiosity, or something deeper, a desperate need to test the boundaries of what is real. Time is supposed to be a river, flowing in one direction. A cause is B. B births. C. An unbroken chain of cause and effect. But what if the river is an illusion? What if time is an ocean, with currents that swirl, collide, and swallow their own tails? The Grandfather Paradox begins here. If you kill your grandfather before he conceives your parent, you erase your own existence. But if you never existed, who pulled the trigger? The question hangs like a dagger mid-fall. Logic shatters, reality gasps. Some say the universe would rebel. A force, karma, physics, fate, would intervene. The gun jams. A stranger tackles you. A butterfly distracts your aim. Time protects itself, like a body fighting a virus. Others argue darker truths. When you pull the trigger, the timeline splits. In one world, you vanish like a snuffed candle. In another, you stand over your grandfather's body and live with the consequences. But here's the twist. Which version of you is real? The one who died, or the one who killed? Or are both ghosts, echoes of choices that never truly happened? Now imagine a subtler thread. You don't kill him, you save him. A car hurtles toward him. You push him aside. He survives, meets your grandmother, and your family lineage continues. Because of you. But if you weren't born yet, how could you have been there to save him? The paradox tightens. Your existence depends on an act you couldn't have performed, unless time is not a line, but a labyrinth. Let's go deeper. What if this has already happened? What if the reason you exist is because a future version of you already meddled with the past? Think of the coincidences that led to your birth, the near misses, the chance encounters. Were they accidents or interventions? That scar on your grandfather's arm, the one he said came from a mysterious stranger who saved him from a fire. What if the stranger was you? What if you've already woven yourself into the tapestry of his life, and your own? But here's the true horror. If you did alter the past, would you even know? Memories dissolve, histories rewrite. You might wake tomorrow in a world where your father was never born, and you'd never realize it. You'd simply cease. Or worse, you'd remain, a phantom with no roots, no past, no reason to be. The Grandfather Paradox is not just about time travel, it's about identity. If you erase your past, do you erase yourself? Or are you something more than your history? A soul? A pattern? A knot in time's fabric that can't be untied? Consider this. Every choice you make ripples backward as well as forward. The future influences the past as surely as the past influences the future. That dream you had last night, the one that felt like a memory, what if it was? A fragment of a timeline you erased, or a life you haven't lived yet? Now, the most unsettling question. What if you're not the first? What if generations of your ancestors have been tampering with time, stitching paradoxes into your bloodline? Your birth isn't an accident. It's an inevitability, a closed loop. You were always meant to go back, always meant to pull the trigger, or not pull it. Free will crumbles. Are you the author of your fate, or a character in a story written by time itself? The Grandfather Paradox offers no answers, only whispers. As you drift into the silence tonight, ask yourself, What if you're already a paradox? What if the reason you feel out of place, like the world doesn't quite fit, is because you don't belong here? Because somewhere, in another timeline, you did pull the trigger? And what if this version of you, the one reading these words, is the echo? Bootstrap Paradox. What if a song you wrote wasn't really yours? Imagine finding a poem in your own handwriting, its verses etched into your soul, but you have no memory of writing it. You share it, and it moves millions. Yet its origin remains a ghost, a melody without a composer, a story without an author, a loop where creation vanishes, leaving only echoes. Time demands rules. A painting needs an artist, a symphony, a composer. But what if the brushstroke painted itself? Tonight, we step into the Bootstrap Paradox, a riddle where the end writes the beginning, and existence loops like a melody with no first note. A paradox that asks, can something exist without ever being created? Picture this. A scientist discovers a blueprint in a dusty archive, a machine capable of bending time. She builds it, steps inside, and vanishes into the past. There, she hides the same blueprint in the archive where her younger self will one day find it. The machine is real, but its design has no origin, no inventor, no spark of genius. It simply is, because it always was. A snake devouring its own tail, a clock ticking backward to its own birth. But here's the twist. Who designed the machine? The question unravels logic. If she built it using her future self's blueprint, who conceived it first? The answer dissolves like smoke. The machine exists in a loop of infinite causality, a secret passed from nobody to nobody, a lie the universe tells itself to feel complete. Now imagine a darker thread. A composer hears a symphony in a dream, a haunting arrangement that defies all known scales. He transcribes it note for note, and it becomes his magnum opus. But years later, he learns the truth. The same symphony appears in a crumbling manuscript, dated centuries before his birth. The notes are identical. The composer's name? His own. Did he steal from the past, or did the past steal from him? The paradox deepens. If the symphony has no origin, does it mean creativity itself is an illusion? Are we artists, or just scribes, copying whispers from a void? Some say such loops are impossible, a crack in logic's mirror. Others argue they're the universe's quiet joke, that childhood lullaby you swear you invented, the philosophy that feels like it was whispered into your mind. What if they're not yours? What if you're just a vessel, passing secrets from a future that never was to a past that will never be? Consider this. A child finds a weathered textbook in the attic. It contains equations that revolutionize physics. She studies them, becomes a genius, and one day she writes the same textbook, placing it back in the attic for her younger self to find. The equations changed the world, but who discovered them? The child, the adult, or the loop itself? The Bootstrap Paradox is not confined to time machines and textbooks. It lives in the cracks of your reality. That joke you invented that everyone suddenly knows. The déjà vu that feels like a memory of a life you haven't lived. The mythologies and folktales repeated across cultures, their origins lost to time. Are they human creations, or artifacts of a loop we're too small to see? Now go deeper. What if you are the loop? What if every thought you call yours, every spark of genius, was planted by a version of you that hasn't existed yet? Would your life feel like freedom, or a script written by invisible hands? Think of your earliest memory, the scent of rain, the sound of a voice. What if that memory isn't yours? What if it belongs to someone else? Someone who borrowed it from you? A chain of borrowed moments, stretching backward and forward until yours and theirs blur into nothing. Here's the chilling truth. If the Bootstrap Paradox is real, then nothing is original. Every idea, every discovery, every note of music is a relic of a loop we can't perceive. Genius is not creation, it's recollection. You are not the author of your life, you are its translator. So here's the question that lingers in the dark. If nothing truly begins, does anything ever end? Are we creators, or just conduits? If you traced your thoughts back to their source, would you find a mind or a mirror? The Bootstrap Paradox offers no solace, only a hall of mirrors, each reflection a lie that feels like truth, a labyrinth where every exit leads back to the start. As you drift tonight, wonder this: what if your entire life is a borrowed coat, tailored for someone else? What if your dreams are not yours, but echoes of a future self pleading to be remembered? And what if the only way to break the loop is to stop asking questions? The Predestination Paradox. What if every choice you've ever made was never yours to begin with? Imagine waking to a letter slipped under your door, a warning written in your own handwriting. It tells you to flee the city before dawn, or you'll die. You ignore it. You stay. And at midnight, a fire erupts, trapping you in flames. As the smoke chokes your lungs, you scribble a note with trembling hands, the same warning, and slip it under your past self's door. The Predestination Paradox is not a riddle. It's a cage, a loop where your attempts to escape fate become the very chains that bind you. Time is supposed to bend to our will, a fork in the road, left or right, freedom to choose. But what if the road is a circle? What if every choice is just an echo of a future already written? Picture this. A woman discovers a time machine. She uses it to stop a terrorist attack that killed her parents. She succeeds. But in doing so, she orphaned herself. The grief of losing her parents drives her to build the time machine, which she uses to orphan herself. The question isn't how, but who. Who planted the idea for the time machine? Who designed the attack? The answer is her, and not her, at the same time. A loop with no creator, no villain, only a snake so hungry it devours its own tail. Now imagine a darker thread. A man finds an ancient coin in the desert, a relic etched with his face. He sells it to a museum, where it's displayed for centuries, until he, as an old man, steals it back and buries it in the same spot where he first found it. Who minted the coin? It has no origin, no smith, no date. It exists, because he always buries it, a loop carved into history itself. Some say free will is an illusion, that our lives are scripts performed by actors who forgot their reading lines. The job you quit, the lover you left, the accident you narrowly avoided. What if they weren't choices? What if they were rituals, repeated infinitely in a loop older than time? Consider this. A scientist invents a drug to erase painful memories. She tests it on herself, only to forget she ever created it. Years later, she rediscovers the formula in her own notes and invents it again. The drug exists because she always forgets. The cure creates the disease. The predestination paradox thrives in the shadows of your life. That dream where you're running from something you can't see. The stranger who feels familiar. The nagging sense that you've lived this moment before. What if you have? What if déjà vu isn't a glitch, but a glimpse of the loop? Now go deeper. What if you are the paradox? What if the reason you're alive is because a future version of you ensured it? Think of the near-death experiences you've survived, the split-second decisions that felt like miracles. Were they luck, or a hand reaching back through time to guide you? Here's the truth. If the predestination paradox is real, then you are both prisoner and warden. Every rebellion against fate, every shouted no at the universe, is a note in a symphony composed before you were born. You cannot escape the loop, because the loop is you. So here's the question that lingers in the silence. If you traced your life back to its first breath, would you find a beginning, or another loop? Are you the first iteration, or the 10,000th copy of a story written in vanishing ink? The predestination paradox offers no exits, only a hall of doors, each leading back to where you started. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if the voice in your head, the one urging you to turn left, to speak up, to run, isn't yours? What if it's a future self, screaming across time to keep you on the path? And what if the only way to break free is to stop listening? The Ontological Paradox. What if your existence depended on a secret you haven't yet discovered? Imagine a locket buried in your backyard, its inscription bearing your name and a date decades before your birth. You wear it, cherish it, and one day, bury it again for your younger self to find. The ontological paradox isn't about time, it's about being. A riddle where creation becomes its own creator, and existence folds into a question with no answer. Reality demands origins. A tree grows from a seed. A child is born of a mother. A story begins with a word. But what if the seed was planted by the tree? What if the mother was born of the child? What if the first word was the last? Picture this. A physicist discovers equations etched into the wall of a cave, formulas that unlock time travel. She uses them to build a machine, travels to the past, and carves those same equations into the cave wall. The equations exist because she put them there. But who created them? Not her. Not the universe. They are a gift from nowhere. A loop where the effect births the cause. A flame that ignites its own spark. Now imagine a darker thread. A novelist writes a book about a dystopian future. Decades later, a rebel finds the book and uses it as a blueprint to overthrow the government, creating the exact dystopia described in its pages. The book didn't predict the future, it invented it. The nightmare exists because it was written. But who truly authored the horror? The novelist, or the rebels who followed her fiction like a script? The ontological paradox thrives in the blur between creator and creation. That song you swear you've heard before it was written. The invention that feels like a memory. The stranger in your dreams who wears your face. What if they're not coincidences? What if they're echoes of a loop you're trapped inside? Consider this. A child is left at an orphanage with a letter. You will change the world. They grow up obsessed with the message, becoming a revolutionary who topples empires. On their deathbed, they write the same letter and send it back in time to their orphaned self. Who wrote the letter? No one. It has no author. The words exist because they always had to exist. The child's destiny was written by their own hand, a hand that hadn't yet aged. Now go deeper. What if you are the paradox? What if the reason you're alive is because a future version of you ensured it? Think of the mentor who shaped your life, the stranger who saved you from disaster, the voice in your dreams that sounds like your own. What if they were you, a future self, frayed by time, stitching your past into place? The ontological paradox dissolves the line between made and maker, that family heirloom passed down for generations. What if you crafted it in the future and sent it back? The recipe for your grandmother's pie. What if she learned it from you? The stories, traditions, and truths you hold dear, what if they're not inheritances, but gifts you gave yourself? Here's the chilling truth. If the ontological paradox is real, then nothing is truly new. Every discovery, every invention, every whispered "I love you" is a relic of a loop we're too small to see. You are not the author of your life. You are its scribe, copying words from a book you haven't finished writing. So here's the question that lingers in the silence. If you traced your existence back to its source, would you find a beginning or a closed circle? Are you the dream or the dreamer? The ontological paradox offers no escape, only a mirror reflecting another mirror, an infinite corridor of selves creating selves. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if your oldest memory isn't a memory at all? What if it's a prophecy, whispered to you by the person you've yet to become? And what if the only way to exist is to never stop asking? The parallel universe. Paradox. What if you're not you, but one of countless shadows cast by a single flame? Imagine standing at a crossroads, choosing left, while another version of you chooses right. Both paths unfold, both lives are lived. The parallel universe. Paradox whispers that every decision splits reality, infinite worlds, infinite yous, each unaware of the others, until the veil slips. Close your eyes. Listen. Can you hear it? The faint laughter of another you, in another world, living a life you abandoned. Reality is supposed to be singular, a stage with one script, one actor. But what if the stage is a hall of mirrors? What if every reflection is real? Tonight, we wander into the labyrinth of parallel universes, where what is and what could be collide like storms in the dark. Picture this. A scientist opens a portal to another dimension. She steps through and finds herself face to face with herself. Same eyes, same voice. But this other her wears scars she doesn't have, and a wedding ring she never chose. They scream. They run. Both return to their labs, and both swear their universe is the original. But here's the twist. Which one is right? The answer is neither, and both. Each universe believes it's the sole reality. Each you believes they're the true self. But truth splinters like glass. You are not one, but many. A chorus of lives, each humming a different tune. Some say these worlds branch like a tree, every choice a new limb. Others claim they've always existed, bubbles in a cosmic ocean, never touching, until they do. That stranger who felt eerily familiar, the dream where you spoke a language you've never learned, the memory of a childhood pet you never had. What if they're not imagination? What if they're glimpses through the cracks? Now imagine a darker thread. You wake in a world identical to yours, except for one detail. Your best friend doesn't recognize you. Your home belongs to someone else. You claw to return. But what if there's nothing to return to? What if your original world is gone, replaced by 1,000 copies, none of them yours? The parallel universe. Paradox is not just about worlds, it's about identity. If infinite versions of you exist, some richer, some crueler, some long dead, who are you really? Are you the hero of your story, or a footnote in another's? Consider this. A musician in one universe writes a symphony that changes history. In another, he dies at 5, struck by a car. In a third, he never existed. His parents never met. The symphony, the accident, the void, all equally real, all equally unreal. Now go deeper. What if your pain, your joy, your love is shared? What if the grief you carry is felt by another you in another world, a twin soul howling into the same void? What if your happiest memory is another's nightmare? The paradox tightens. That job you didn't take, the lover you let go, the words you left unspoken, they exist somewhere. Other yous are living those moments right now. But here's the haunting truth. You'll never meet them, never know them, never mourn them. Or will you? What if déjà vu isn't a glitch, but a collision? A moment when two universes brush against each other, and you, for a heartbeat, remember the life you didn't live. That cafe you swear you've visited before. The stranger's name on your lips. The song that makes you weep for reasons you can't name. Are they yours or borrowed? Here's the question that splits the soul. If every choice creates a new world, do any of them matter? If a version of you succeeds, fails, loves, dies, does it make your life meaningless or more sacred? The parallel universe. Paradox offers no comfort, only a mirror reflecting endless mirrors. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if you're the lucky one? The version who survived? The version who gets to ask these questions? And what if, somewhere, another you is lying awake, haunted by the same thought? The time loop paradox. What if today never ends? Imagine waking to the same sunrise, the same birdsong, the same knock at your door, again and again and again. The time loop paradox is a prison without walls, where the clock's hands spin backward the moment they reach midnight. A riddle that asks, can you escape a maze that exists only in time? Close your eyes. Listen. That faint ticking in the silence. Is it a clock, or your heartbeat counting down to a reset you can't stop? Reality demands progress. Dawn becomes dusk. Seeds become forests. Lives become stories. But what if dawn is dusk? What if the seed is the forest? What if your life is a story, read aloud by a voice that never turns the page? Picture this. A man wakes with a jolt, his alarm blaring 7 a.m. He stumbles through the day, spills coffee, misses a train, watches a stranger die in a hit and run. At midnight, he sleeps, and wakes again at 7 a.m. The coffee spills, the train departs, the stranger dies, he screams, he flees, he begs, but the loop continues, because the loop is him. But here's the twist. Who trapped him? The answer is no one and everyone. The loop has no key, no warden. It simply is a glitch in time's code, a record skipping on the same note, forever. Now imagine a darker thread. A woman lives a perfect day. Sunlight, laughter, love. At midnight, it restarts. She clings to the joy until the repetitions hollow it. The sunlight feels staged. The laughter echoes. The love becomes a script. She tries to break the loop, jumping from a roof, swallowing pills, setting the world on fire. But dawn always comes. The loop continues, pristine, unbroken. Why? Because the loop isn't her punishment. It's her gift, a chance to relive the last day she was happy, before the accident that shattered her. The universe, in its cruelty, forces her to choose infinite joy or one true ending. The time loop paradox thrives in the cracks of déjà vu, that conversation you swear you've had before, the street lamp that flickers at the same hour each night, the nagging sense that you've already read this sentence. What if you have? What if you're living proof that time stutters, stumbles, and sometimes breaks? Consider this. A scientist builds a machine to revisit her mother's final moments. She succeeds, but each visit traps her in the same hour. Her mother dies. She grieves. The loop resets. She realizes too late. She is the ghost in her mother's hospital room, the shadow at the edge of every memory. Her grief sustains the loop. To escape, she must let go. But how? Now go deeper. What if you are the loop? The job you repeat, the routines you hate, the relationships that cycle through love and ruin. Are they choices or echoes? That song you play every morning, the route you drive without thinking, the apology you've spoken 1,000 times. What if they're not habits? What if they're rituals, keeping the loop intact? Here's the chilling truth. If time loops are real, then free will is a myth. You are not the pilot, but a passenger. The days you call new are rehearsals. The people you love are actors, reciting lines from a script they don't remember writing. But wait, there's a flaw, a glimmer. A man has relived the same day 10,000 times. He learns every language, masters every art, uncovers every secret. On the 10,000th and first loop, he changes nothing, but someone else does. A stranger smiles at him, a smile he's never seen in all his millennia of yesterdays. The loop cracks, not because he fought it, but because he stopped. So here's the question that splits the loop. Is escape a matter of will or surrender? Do you break time, or let time break you? The time loop paradox offers no answers, only a whisper. This might be the first time you've heard this, or the 10,000th. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if tomorrow never comes, because it's already here? And what if you're not the dreamer, but the dream? The information paradox. What if the universe forgets? Imagine a library where every book is a life, your memories, your atoms, the stars that forged you. Now picture a flame, not an ordinary flame, but a hungry, eternal one. It devours the books, page by page, until nothing remains, not even ash. The information paradox asks, where do the stories go when they burn? Reality is built on rules. Energy cannot die. Information cannot vanish. But black holes defy rules. They are the universe's secret keepers and its arsonists. Picture this. A star collapses, folding inward until it becomes a hole in space-time, a black hole. It swallows planets, light, time itself. Quantum physics whispers, nothing is truly lost. The information, the essence of what fell, is preserved, like a fingerprint on the edge of the abyss. But relativity roars, no, the whole consumes it all. The fingerprint is erased. Who is right? The paradox begins here. If a black hole evaporates, fading into a whisper of radiation, what happens to the information of all it ate? Does it leak back into the cosmos, or vanish forever? If it vanishes, the universe is a liar, a clock that cannot remember its own ticks. Some say the information is trapped, a ghost in the event horizon's shadow. Others claim it's scrambled, fractured into quantum noise, like a song played backward through a broken speaker. But here's the twist. What if the whole never truly dies? What if it leaves behind a diamond of data, a cosmic USB drive, smaller than an atom, containing every secret it ever swallowed. Now imagine a darker truth. You are made of stardust, particles that once danced in the heart of suns. Every atom in your body holds a story. But if you fell into a black hole, would your story end? Or would it become a riddle even the universe cannot solve? The information paradox is not about black holes. It's about meaning. If reality cannot preserve your essence, your memories, your you-ness, then what are we but temporary whispers in an endless storm? Consider this. 2 identical books fall into a black hole. One is a romance, the other a tragedy. The whole evaporates. If information is preserved, the books emerge intact, their stories unchanged. But if it's lost, they return as gibberish. Poetry becomes static. Love becomes noise. But what if the answer is stranger? What if the books never fell at all? What if they're holograms, illusions painted on the edge of the whole? Their information isn't inside, it's on the surface, a 2D code that only looks 3D. A cosmic sleight of hand. Now go deeper. What if you are the paradox? Your body, a collection of atoms, your mind, a tapestry of electrical storms. If you were erased, would the universe notice? Or would it stitch a new you from the void? Identical in every way, but a copy. Would you still be you? Here's the chilling truth. If the information paradox is real, then immortality is a myth, but so is death. You are not destroyed, just transformed, scattered into particles that forget their own names. A poem translated into a language no one speaks. But wait, there's a flaw, a glitch. Physicists whisper of firewalls, walls of energy at the edge of black holes that incinerate anything that touches them. If true, information isn't lost, it's burned. A cosmic censorship. So here's the question that splits reality. Is the universe a meticulous librarian, or a careless child, scribbling over its own work? When we look into the night sky, are we gazing at truth, or the ashes of forgotten truths? The information paradox offers no comfort, only a faint echo in the dark. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if black holes are not monsters, but messengers? What if their silence is a code, waiting to be cracked? And what if the answer to the paradox is the universe itself, forgetting how to lie, the observer's paradox? What if the universe shifts its shape, the moment you glance away? Imagine a room that rearranges itself when your back is turned. Walls creep closer, colors bleed, a clock ticks backward, but only when you're not looking. The observer's paradox whispers a secret. Reality is a dance between the seer and the seen, and neither can exist without the other. Close your eyes. Listen. The faint hum of the cosmos grows louder when you're not there to hear it. Science insists the world is solid. A rock is a rock. A star is a star. But what if the rock becomes a river, when no one is there to call it rock? What if the star forgets to shine, until someone gazes up and names it star? Picture this. A lab at midnight. A single particle, a tiny knot of energy, floats in a vacuum. Scientists fire it through 2 slits. When watched, it behaves like a bullet, piercing one slit. When unobserved, it becomes a wave, rippling through both. The particle knows, it chooses. Reality bends, to meet the eye of the beholder. But here's the twist. Does the observer create the reality, or does the reality create the observer? The paradox tightens. A child's snow globe sits on a shelf. When you stare, the glitter settles. When you sleep, storms rage inside. Tiny avalanches, frozen cities crumbling. A world that lives, only when unseen. Now imagine a darker truth. You walk into a forest. The trees stand still. Birds freeze mid-song. The wind holds its breath, until you pass. Is the forest polite or afraid? Does it wear a mask for you, and only remove it when you leave? The observer's paradox is not confined to labs and forests. It lives in your bones. That nagging sense that someone's watching, the prickling on your neck in an empty room, the dream where 1,000 eyes open in the dark. What if they're not illusions? What if the universe is watching, learning from you, as you learn from it? Consider this. A camera points at a cat in a box. The cat is alive. the cat is dead. Both. Neither. The moment you open the box, the cat chooses. But what if the cat isn't the paradox? You are. Your curiosity, your need to know, forces the universe to pick a side, a truth that cannot exist until you demand it. Now go deeper. What if you are the experiment? Every choice you make, every word you speak, is observed by a universe as curious about you as you are about it. That job interview where you became someone else, the first date where you performed a version of yourself, the prayer you whispered when you thought no one was listening. Who was watching? The answer is everywhere and nowhere. The observer's paradox is a hall of mirrors. You watch the universe watches you, and neither can tell who began the game. Here's the chilling truth. If reality requires an observer, what happens when all eyes close? When the last star fades and the last mind dissolves, does the universe exhale? And finally, let go. So here's the question that splits the night. Are we the dreamers or the dreamed? When you shut your eyes tonight, does the moon still rise? Or does it wait, patient and silent, for your gaze to give it meaning? The observer's paradox offers no solace, only a riddle wrapped in a heartbeat. As you drift, wonder this. What if the universe is just as afraid of you as you are of it? And what if this script, these words, are nothing but echoes of a reality you're observing into existence? The causal loop paradox. What if every choice you make was written by a hand you haven't grown yet? Imagine finding a letter on your doorstep, a plea for help, signed with your name, dated next year. You follow its instructions, avert a disaster, and 1 year later, write the same letter to your past self. The causal loop paradox is a hall of mirrors where cause and effect chase each other, forever. A circle with no start, no end, only the illusion of choice. Reality demands beginnings. A fire starts with a spark. A war begins with a shot. A life begins with a breath. But what if the spark was lit by the fire? What if the shot was fired by the war? What if the breath was borrowed from a future that hasn't breathed yet? Picture this. A man inherits a journal from his father. Inside are detailed accounts of his own life, events that haven't happened yet. He follows the journal religiously, marrying the woman it names, taking the job it prescribes, living exactly as written. On his deathbed, he hands the same journal to his son, who fills it with the life his father already lived. Who wrote the journal? No one. It has no author. The words exist, because they always had to exist. A loop where the future writes the past, and the past demands the future. A snake so hungry, it gnaws on its own ribs. Now imagine a darker thread. A scientist discovers a cryptic formula in an ancient text, a recipe for time travel. She uses it to build a machine, visits the past, and carves the formula into the same text, ensuring her younger self will find it. The formula works, because she stole it from herself. But who invented it? The answer is a shadow, a riddle the universe refuses to solve. The causal loop paradox thrives in the silence between ticks of the clock. That stranger who saved you from an accident. The song you wrote that echoes a melody from your childhood. The déjà vu that feels less like memory and more like prophecy. What if they're threads in a loop you can't see? Consider this. A couple adopts a child, raising them with love and lore about a mysterious benefactor who funded their adoption. Decades later, the child, now wealthy, donates to the same agency, creating a fund that pays for their own adoption. The loop closes. The child exists because they ensured their existence. A paradox dressed as kindness. But here's the twist. Does free will exist here? Or is every smile, every tear, every choice just a rehearsal, performed infinite times in a script written by no one? Now go deeper. What if you are the loop? The job you hate but can't quit? The relationship you return to like a moth to flame? The fear that pins you in place? Are they choices? Or echoes of a future you've already lived? That scar on your wrist from a fall you don't remember? The nightmare where you're drowning in a river you've never seen? The urge to turn left when every sign says right? What if they're not accidents? What if they're clues? breadcrumbs left by a future self trying to break the loop. Here's the chilling truth. If the causal loop paradox is real, then you are both prisoner and key. Every step you take, every word you speak, is a stitch in a tapestry woven before you were born. You cannot escape, because the escape route is part of the design. So here's the question that lingers in the static. If you traced your life back to its first heartbeat, would you find a beginning or another loop? Are you the first dancer or a reflection in a mirror that's always existed? The causal loop paradox offers no exits, only a whisper. This has all happened before, and it will all happen again. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if the voice in your head, the one that hesitates, that doubts, that fears, isn't yours? What if it's a future you, screaming across time to change a story that's already written? And what if the scream itself is part of the script? The reverse causation paradox. What if the future writes the past? Imagine a river flowing backward, its currents carving canyons into mountains that haven't yet formed. The reverse causation paradox defies the arrow of time. It whispers, the effect may come first, and the cause follows. Reality clings to order. Seeds sprout into trees. Children grow into adults. Flames birth smoke. But what if the smoke ignites the flame? What if the adult shapes the child? What if the tree plants the seed? Picture this. A scientist receives a radio signal from deep space, a string of numbers predicting a supernova's explosion. She publishes the coordinates, and astronomers train their telescopes, just in time to witness the star's death. But the signal? It came from the explosion itself, broadcast backward through time. The cause, the supernova, is the effect of its own effect, the signal. A loop where the end writes the beginning. Now imagine a darker thread. A woman wakes with a scar on her palm, a jagged line she's never seen before. Days later, she slips, cuts her hand on broken glass, and the wound heals into the exact scar she already bore. The scar caused the accident, but the accident caused the scar. Which came first? The answer is neither, and both. Time folds. The future reaches back and pulls. Some say free will is a mirage, that our choices are echoes of consequences that haven't happened yet. The job you took, the lover you kissed, the lie you told. What if they're not decisions? What if they're destinies, whispered to you by a future self desperate to survive? Consider this. A poet writes a verse about a storm that drowns a city. Weeks later, the storm hits, matching every detail of the poem. Critics call it prophecy. But what if the storm read the poem and obeyed? Reverse causation thrives in the cracks of your reality. That nightmare of a car crash, the eerie urge to avoid the highway the next morning, the wreck that appears on the news. Did you predict it, or did the crash need your fear to exist? Now go deeper. What if you are the paradox, the anxiety that tightens your chest, the joy that lifts you without reason, the sense of being watched in an empty room? What if these aren't feelings, but messages, signals sent from a future self, stitching your present into place? Here's the truth. If reverse causation is real, then guilt and regret are illusions. That mistake you can't forgive yourself for. The words you wish you'd said, the paths you didn't take, they were never choices. They were inevitabilities. The future demanded them, and the past complied. But wait, there's a flaw, a glitch. A man murders his enemy, only to discover a letter in the victim's pocket. You will kill me tomorrow. The letter's ink is fresh. The handwriting, his own. Did he write it after the murder, or before? The loop tightens. The murder becomes a ritual, performed to satisfy a prophecy written in blood. So here's the question that splits the soul. Are we pioneers or prisoners? If the future shapes the past, do our lives have weight? Or are we shadows, cast by a light that hasn't been lit yet? Reverse causation offers no comfort, only a hall of doors, each labelled exit, each leading deeper inside. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if your birth was not a beginning, but a response? A reply to a question the universe hasn't asked yet? And what if this script, these words, are not mine, but yours? echoes from a future where you've already heard them. The Schrödinger's time paradox. What if time itself is both alive and dead? Imagine a clock sealed in a box, its hands frozen, yet spinning, ticking backward and forward at once. The Schrödinger's time paradox merges quantum uncertainty with the river of time, asking, does reality collapse or fracture when the observer becomes the observed? Close your eyes. Listen. The faint hum in the silence. Is it the universe holding its breath? Reality demands certainty. A clock ticks. A heart beats. A life begins and ends. But quantum physics whispers, until observed, all possibilities exist. Schrödinger's cat is alive and dead. The moon is there and not there. And time is now, and then, and never, all at once. Picture this. A scientist builds a box not for a cat, but for a moment. Inside, a clock is tied to a quantum trigger, a particle that decays randomly. If the particle decays, the clock stops. If it doesn't, the clock ticks on. The box is sealed. The moment is isolated. But here's the twist. What happens to time itself? Is the clock stopped and ticking? Is the moment frozen and flowing? Does time split into parallel streams or dissolve into static? The answer is yes and no. The paradox isn't in the box. It's in the mind of the one who opens it. Now imagine a darker thread. A woman receives a letter dated next week, a suicide note in her own handwriting. She burns it, vowing to never write it. But days later, she finds the ashes rearranged into the same letter. The act of destroying it creates it. The future writes the past. The past demands the future. Schrödinger's time paradox thrives in the cracks of choice. That job offer you declined, the train you missed, the stranger you didn't kiss. What if they're both real and unreal? What if every road not taken is still being walked in a timeline you'll never see? Consider this. A man records a voicemail for his younger self, a warning. He sends it back in time. His younger self hears it and chooses to ignore it. The warning becomes prophecy. The older man's voice? It was never his, until it was. The paradox tightens. That scar you've always had, the childhood memory of a birthday party no one else recalls, the song you swear you wrote but can't find in any records. What if they're quantum echoes, fragments of timelines that collapsed or never existed? Now go deeper. What if you are the box? Your body, a vessel where time is both fluid and fixed. Your memories, not records of the past, but choices the universe hasn't settled yet. That argument you won last week, did you? Or did another you lose, and you're just the version who remembers the victory? Here's the chilling truth. If time is quantum, then you are both the observer and the experiment. Every glance at a clock, every reflection in a mirror, every heartbeat forces reality to pick a side. You are not living in time, you are creating it. But wait, there's a flaw, a glitch. A woman enters the box with the clock. She observes the particle, stops the decay, freezes time. But when she steps out, the world has aged without her. She is both here and there, now and then, alive and erased. So here's the question that splits existence. If you observed every moment, would time even exist? Or would it shatter into infinite nows, a mosaic of frozen instants? Schrödinger's time paradox offers no solace, only a hall of doors, each labeled now. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if yesterday never happened until you remembered it? And what if this moment, right now, is the only one that's real? The butterfly effect. What if every choice you've ever made, every whispered word, every step taken or not taken, sent ripples cascading through time, altering the fabric of reality in ways you'll never see? What if the universe hangs by a thread, spun by the wings of a butterfly? Tonight, let us wander through the delicate paradox of the butterfly effect, where the smallest tremor of choice can become a storm, and the flutter of a wing can rewrite the fate of worlds. Close your eyes. Imagine a child standing at the edge of a forest. A single decision, step onto the path or turn back home. She chooses the path. Decades later, That child becomes a scientist whose discovery saves millions, or a tyrant whose shadow drowns continents. One step, infinite echoes. But here's the mystery. The universe does not distinguish between the trivial and the profound. A missed train, a coffee spilled, a smile withheld. Each moment branches into 1,000 futures, unseen and unknowable. Picture a storm raging over an ocean. Waves devour cities. Winds erase history. Now trace it back, not to the clouds, not to the tides, but to a butterfly, weeks earlier, stirring the air with its wings. A tremor becomes a tempest. A breath becomes a roar. Science calls this chaos. Poets call it fate. But what if it's both? A dance of order and entropy, where every heartbeat is a pebble thrown into the dark pond of eternity. Consider this. A man leaves his house 5 minutes late. He misses the bus. The bus crashes. He lives. But what if he'd left on time? Would he have perished? Or would his presence on that bus have calmed a nervous driver, averting disaster? We'll never know. The universe keeps its secrets. Now go deeper. What if you are the butterfly? Not just your choices, but your thoughts, your dreams, the unspoken words that linger in the quiet of your mind. What storms have you birthed? What futures have you unwittingly unraveled? History is littered with near misses. A telegram unsent that could have prevented a war. A letter burned that might have sparked a revolution. A stranger's hand not taken that could have been love. We walk through life unaware of the doors we open and those we seal forever. But here's the twist. The butterfly effect is not a curse. It's a revelation. It means you matter, profoundly, irrevocably, in ways you'll never witness. That apology you've postponed, that risk you're too afraid to take, that kindness you shrugged off as too small. They are seismic, yet this power is double-edged. For every life you might save, another could vanish. A universe of unintended consequences hangs in the balance. How do you walk through such a world? Do you freeze, terrified of misstep? Or do you dance, embracing the chaos? The answer lies in acceptance. The butterfly effect does not demand control. It demands humility. We are not gods steering fate, but gardeners tending seeds will never see bloom. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, consider this. What invisible threads have you woven? What silent storms have your choices unleashed? And when you wake tomorrow, ask yourself, will I move through the world as a passive shadow or a deliberate force? The universe is listening. The butterfly stirs. The self-defeating prophecy. What if your worst fear is the only thing keeping it alive? Imagine whispering a prophecy into the dark. I will die alone, and clinging to it like a prayer. You build walls, push others away, and bury your heart until the prophecy fulfills itself. The self-defeating prophecy is a serpent that devours its own tail. The act of fearing a fate becomes the engine of its creation. Close your eyes. Listen. The voice in your head that murmurs, "You'll fail." Does it sound like you or someone else? Reality bends to belief. A child told their clumsy trips over nothing. A nation warned of collapse hoards resources and starves. A lover afraid of betrayal suffocates their partner until betrayal becomes the only escape. The prophecy isn't a prediction, it's a spell, and you are both the caster and the sacrifice. Picture this. A king dreams of rebellion. He sees daggers in every shadow, treason in every whisper. He bans gatherings, arrests dissenters, and taxes the starving. His people, once loyal, rise in revolt, not because they wanted to, but because he left them no choice. The king's fear of rebellion created the rebellion. His prophecy didn't foresee the future, it designed it. Now imagine a darker thread. A mother tells her child, "You'll end up just like your father." The words become a compass. The child stumbles into addiction, prison, ruin, not because it was inevitable, but because the prophecy carved a groove in their soul, a path they couldn't unsee. The self-defeating prophecy thrives in the space between thought and action. That job interview you sabotaged by over-preparing, the friendship you smothered by demanding constant reassurance, the diet that failed because you feared failure. What if the outcome wasn't destiny, but a reflection, a mirror held up to your deepest dread? Consider this. A scientist publishes a study warning that humanity will extinct itself in 200 years. Panic spreads. Governments crumble. Wars ignite over dwindling resources. The timeline shortens to 50 years. The prophecy didn't predict doom, it accelerated it. But here's the twist. Can the cycle break? If you stop believing the prophecy, does it vanish? Or does doubt itself become a new kind of faith? Now go deeper. What if you are the prophecy? The anxiety that you're unlovable. The conviction you'll never succeed. The certainty that happiness is for others. Are these truths, or curses you've recited so often they've become scripture? That nightmare where you're running from a monster, only to realize the monster has your face. The way you brace for rejection, and see flinches in strangers' eyes that weren't there. The prayers you whisper to avoid disaster, that somehow conjure it. What if the universe isn't punishing you? It's obeying you. Here's the chilling truth. If a prophecy can self-destruct, it can also self-redeem. A child told, "You'll change the world," might just do it. Not despite the prophecy, but because of it. The loop can be a noose or a ladder. So here's the question that splits the soul. Are you the prisoner of your fears, or the architect? If you stopped whispering prophecies into the dark, would the dark finally quiet? The self-defeating prophecy offers no easy answers, only a choice. Cling to the script, or burn it. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if the future isn't written until you write it? And what if you already have? Time Dilation Paradox. What if a single second could stretch into a lifetime, or vanish before you blink? What if time does not flow, but fractures, slowing here, accelerating there, until past, present, and future collapse into a single, breathless moment? This is the time dilation paradox, a riddle carved into the heart of Einstein's relativity, a truth where time bends like taffy, and two people can age centuries apart, while sharing the same heartbeat. Close your eyes. Imagine twins. One stays on Earth, the other boards a starship, hurtling near the speed of light. For the astronaut, years pass like days. For the sibling left behind, decades crumble to dust. When the ship returns, the twins reunite, one old, one young, strangers divided by time itself. But here's the twist. Both perspectives are real. To the astronaut, time moved, normally. To the earthbound twin, time raced. Who is right? The universe whispers. Both. Time is not absolute. It is a river with countless currents, each observer trapped in their own stream. Now go deeper. Picture a black hole, a cosmic beast where gravity warps space-time like taffy. Approach its edge, the event horizon, and time slows to a crawl. To an outsider you appear frozen, your body stretched into an infinite smear of light. But to you, seconds pass. You float, you breathe, you live, until you cross the horizon. Time flips. The future becomes unavoidable. The past evaporates. You are both alive and gone, a ghost in the machine of space-time. The paradox tightens. Suppose you escape the black hole. You return to your homeworld, only to find civilizations risen and fallen, loved ones long dead. Your journey lasted days. Theirs spanned millennia. You are a relic, a living fossil of a time that no longer exists. But what if you are the one left behind, watching a ship vanish into the void, knowing its crew will return as strangers to a world they won't recognize? Would you call their journey courage or tragedy? Time dilation is not science fiction. It is happening now. Satellites orbiting Earth age slower than those on the ground. A fraction of a second, yes, but proof that time is a malleable illusion. A clock that ticks differently for everyone. Now consider this. What if your perception of time is a lie? A day feeling like an hour when you're in love. A minute stretching into agony and grief. Time dilation lives in your bones. It is the reason memories blur and childhood summers felt endless. The universe reveals a haunting truth. There is no now. A star explodes, but its light takes millennia to reach us. We mourn deaths that happened before our ancestors walked upright. The present is a mosaic of staggered pasts. So here's the question that splits reality. If time is relative, what is real? Are we all just ghosts haunting different layers of the same moment? When you gaze at the night sky, you see stars as they were, not as they are. Some died eons ago. Their light, A lie. A beautiful, ancient lie. The time dilation paradox is not about clocks. It's about identity. If time bends, who are you? A collection of moments, or a single thread woven through dimensions? As you drift to sleep tonight, imagine this. Every tick of your heartbeat exists in infinite echoes. Somewhere you are always laughing. Somewhere you are already gone. Somewhere you never existed at all. What if you are just a shadow, cast by time's fractured light? Quantum retrocausality. What if the universe remembers backward? Imagine a bullet returning to the gun, a shattered vase reassembling in your hands, a funeral procession walking a corpse back to its cradle. Quantum retrocausality defies time's arrow, whispering, the future is not written, it writes. Close your eyes. Listen. The clock ticks. But which way? Reality clings to order. Smoke follows fire. Graves follow lives. Regret follows choices. But quantum physics murmurs, what if the fire follows the smoke? What if the choice follows the regret? Picture this. A scientist receives a blueprint, a machine that can send one message to the past. She builds it, types, "Don't build this," and sends it back to her younger self. The younger self reads the warning and builds the machine anyway to send the warning. Who invented the machine? No one. It has no origin. The design exists because it will exist. A loop where the future hands the past a shovel and says, dig your own grave. Now imagine a darker thread. A man wakes with a scar on his chest, a perfect circle, like a bullet wound. Days later, an assassin fires at him, but the bullet veers, as if repelled by an invisible force. The scar caused the miss, but the miss caused the scar. Which came first? The answer is both, and neither. Time is a Mobius strip. The assassin's hatred, the man's survival, the scar's origin, all spin in a dance without a leader. Quantum retrocausality thrives in the cracks of déjà vu. That conversation you swear you've had, the song you composed before hearing it, the lover you recognized before meeting. What if they're not coincidences? What if they're ripples from a future that hasn't happened yet? Consider this. A physicist observes a particle's path, but the particle knows it's being watched. It changes its behavior, not because of the observation, but because of the consequences of the observation. The future experiment alters the past particle. The effect becomes the cause. Now go deeper. What if you are the experiment? The job you quit last month, the stranger you helped yesterday, the lie you told today. What if they're not choices? What if they're echoes of consequences that haven't yet occurred? Here's the chilling truth. If retrocausality is real, then guilt is an illusion. That accident you blame yourself for, the words that shattered a friendship, the chance you didn't take, they were never your fault. The future demanded them, and the past obeyed. But wait, there's a flaw, a glitch. A woman avoids a plane crash after a nightmare, only to cause a car crash that kills the same people. The universe balances its books, the future corrects, and the past complies. So here's the question that splits reality. Are we pioneers or pawns? If the future tugs the strings of the past, do our lives have weight? Or are we shadows, cast by a light that hasn't been lit? Quantum retrocausality offers no solace, only a hall of doors, each labeled now. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if your oldest memory isn't a memory at all? What if it's a prophecy sent backward, arrow of time? What if time is a river that refuses to flow backward? Imagine a world where shattered glass shards leap back into your hand, where wrinkles smooth into youth, where graves yawn open, returning life to bones. But reality is not so generous. Time marches forward, dragging us all in its wake. This is the arrow of time, a mystery etched into the fabric of existence, pointing only one way. Close your eyes. Listen. The clock ticks, but never ticks in reverse. We remember the past, but not the future. Eggs crack, but never uncrack. Laughter fades, but never unfades. Time's arrow flies forward, and we are strapped to its shaft. But why? Why does time have a direction, when the laws of physics do not? Picture this, a film reel of the universe. Play it forward. Stars burn, lives bloom and wither, teacups shatter. Play it backward. Stars suck light from the void, Shattered porcelain reassembles, the dead rise gasping. Both are possible, yet only one feels real. The difference, entropy, the universe's slow slide from order to chaos. The arrow of time is not a law, it's a leak, a crack through which disorder seeps. But here's the twist. Why did the crack form at all? The universe began in a state of perfect order, a cosmic egg, pristine and smooth. The Big Bang shattered it, scattering fragments that became galaxies, planets, us. Entropy was low then. Now, it climbs. The arrow points forward, because disorder must grow. But why did the universe start ordered? Why not begin in chaos, with no arrow to follow? Some say it's a fluke, a quantum roll of the dice. Others whisper of a multiverse, a sea of universes where time flows backward, sideways, in spirals. But we are here, in this universe, where time's arrow pierces only forward. Now imagine a darker thread. A scientist creates a box where entropy decreases. Inside, smoke funnels into a cigarette. Wine unferments into grapes. A corpse heals its wounds and wakes. She opens the box, and the universe recoils. The experiment fails. Not because it's impossible, but because the universe forbids it. Time's arrow guards its territory. The arrow of time thrives in your breath. Each exhale, a puff of chaos. Each heartbeat, a drumroll for entropy. You age not because time passes, but because disorder accumulates. Your cells fray, memories blur, love fades. The universe is forgetting itself, and you are its amnesia. But here's the haunting truth. Without the arrow, you would not exist. Life feeds on chaos. Plants devour sunlight, animals devour plants, and chaos devours them all. The arrow is not a tyrant, but a sculptor. It carves stories from static. So here's the question that splits the soul. If time's arrow reversed, would you still be you? Or would your memories unravel? Your choices undo themselves? Your very atoms forget their bonds? The arrow of time offers no answers, only a riddle wrapped in a heartbeat. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if entropy is not the enemy, but the artist? What if chaos is the price of beauty? And what if our fleeting lives are the universe's way of remembering before it forgets? The block universe. What if every moment, your first breath, your last heartbeat, and every fleeting second in between exists all at once? Frozen, eternal. A cosmic gallery where past, present, and future hang side by side, gathering dust. This is the block universe, a theory etched into the spine of space-time itself. Not a river flowing from source to sea, but a glacier. A four-dimensional sculpture where every laugh, every tear, every collision of stars is carved into the ice, forever. Close your eyes. Imagine time as a book. You are not the author nor the reader. You are a single word, printed on page 372. The story is already written. The first chapter? Still there. The final sentence? Already inked. You feel like you're turning pages, but the book is fixed, bound, complete. Einstein called this the eternal now, a realm where before and after are illusions. A train departs New York. A dynasty falls in Rome. A child laughs in a future you'll never see. All happening now, all equally real. But here's the twist. You are both prisoner and king of this block. You cannot change your past. It is etched in stone. You cannot alter your future. It is written in light. Yet here you sit, believing in choice, in freedom, in time's arrow. How? The answer lies in perception. Your mind, a flickering candle, can only illuminate one slice of the block at a time. You call this slice the present. But step outside your skull, and the block remains, unchanging, unmoving, a fossil of eternity. Consider this. The you reading these words is already gone. A future you has finished the script. A past you is just beginning. All versions exist, layered like pages in a book. The you of tomorrow is as real as the you of yesterday. Memory is not a relic, it's a parallel reality. Now go deeper. A star explodes, a civilization rises, a love letter is burned. In the block, these events are not distant. They huddle together, separated only by space, not time. The Big Bang, still echoing. The heat death of the universe, already here. You simply haven't reached that page yet. But what does this mean for you? If your life is a completed sculpture, why does it feel like you're chiseling it day by day? Why the agony of regret? The thrill of anticipation? The paradox is this: the block is static, but your consciousness dances across it like a spotlight. You are the beam, not the stage. You create the illusion of movement by focusing on one frozen moment, then another, then another. Ask yourself, if all time exists at once, is death an end, or merely a coordinate? Is your grandmother, gone for decades, still laughing somewhere in the block? Are you? Science offers cold comfort. Satellites orbiting Earth prove time bends. Clocks tick slower near gravity's grip. GPS would fail without this truth. The block is not philosophy, it is mathematics, geometry, a map of reality we're too small to see. Yet here's the horror and the beauty. If the future is fixed, are you free? Or are you a character in a script, deluded into believing you have lines to improvise? Don't answer yet. Instead, imagine your life as a film strip. Each frame exists. The projector, your mind, flashes them one by one, creating motion from stillness. But the film strip is entire. The ending? Known. The tears, the triumphs, already developed in the darkroom of space-time. So why does it hurt to lose someone? Why does joy feel urgent? Because you are human. The block may be fact, but you are fiction. A story told by neurons. A dream dreamed by flesh. As you drift to sleep tonight, consider this. The block universe does not erase meaning. It distills it. Every moment is forever. Your first kiss, eternal. Your greatest failure, immortal. The night sky you gaze at now, a gallery of infinite nows. The stars you see are already dead. Their light, a eulogy. But in the block, they still burn. You are always looking up. They are always shining. So here's the question to carry into the dark. If time is an illusion, what are you? The eternal return. What if your life is a song on repeat? Imagine living the same joys, the same sorrows, the same breathless first kiss and gut-wrenching last goodbye, again and again, forever. The eternal return is not a time loop. It's a cosmic encore, a paradox that asks, if existence repeats infinitely, does meaning dissolve or deepen? Close your eyes. Listen. The rhythm of your pulse. Is it a heartbeat or a metronome? Nietzsche whispered of this nightmare dressed as poetry. The universe, he said, is finite, but time is infinite. Eventually, every atom, every star, every scream and whisper must return to its place. You will sit here again, hearing these words, wondering these wonders, loving and losing the same souls, a script written once, performed eternally. But here's the twist. Would you live the same life if given the choice? Picture this. A man wakes with a jolt, haunted by déjà vu. He walks to work, buys coffee, spills it on his shirt, just like yesterday. But yesterday was years ago. He realizes, this is not memory, it's rehearsal. His life is a play staged on a universal scale, and the curtain never falls. The eternal return thrives in the mundane. The seasons, spring's bloom, winter's decay, are not cycles, but reruns. Civilizations rise in identical glory. Dictators repeat their atrocities. Poets write the same verses in dead languages. History is a pendulum, swinging back to strike the same note. Now imagine a darker truth. A woman loves a man who will leave her. She knows this, because she's loved him 1,000 times before. Each iteration, she tries to change the story. A different word, a withheld kiss, a scream instead of silence. But the ending remains. He always leaves. She always grieves. The universe is a director who tolerates no improv. But why? Some say repetition is hell. Others call it divinity. If a moment is beautiful, why not relive it eternally? The first time you held a lover's hand, the sunset that left you breathless, the laugh of a child. What if these are not fleeting gifts, but verses in a hymn sung forever? Consider this. A composer writes a symphony so perfect, it loops seamlessly. The final note feeds back into the first. Listeners never notice. They're too lost in the beauty. Is this hell, or heaven, or both? Now go deeper. What if you are the symphony? Your flaws, the missed notes, the cracks in your voice, are not mistakes, but part of the score. That addiction you fight, the lie you can't unspeak, the secret that gnaws at your bones, they're not accidents, they're refrains. Here's the chilling truth. If the eternal return is real, then guilt and regret are illusions. You've already forgiven yourself, and will again. You've already failed, and will again. You are not evolving, you are revolving. A planet orbiting a sun that itself orbits nothing. But wait, there's a flaw, a glimmer. A man trapped in the cycle begins to love it. He finds comfort in the repetition. The pain becomes familiar. The joy becomes ritual. He no longer fears death, because death is just an intermission. So here's the question that splits the soul. Is freedom found in breaking the cycle, or surrendering to it? Would you rage against the encore, or rise for a standing ovation? The eternal return offers no answers, only a whisper. This might be the first time you've heard this, or the millionth. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if repetition is not a curse, but a covenant? What if the universe repeats, because it's in love with the story? And what if you are too? Planck time. Paradox. What if time itself has a heartbeat, a rhythm so rapid, 1,000 trillion pulses pass in the blink of an eye? A moment so fleeting, 5.39 times 10 to the negative 44 seconds, it defies imagination. A grain of sand in the desert of eternity. Yet here lies the frontier where time fractures and reality unravels. Close your eyes. Imagine slicing a second into pieces. Keep cutting until you reach a scale where before and after blur. This is Planck time, the universe's quantum pulse. At this scale, space-time is not smooth. It seethes. A storm of virtual particles bursts in and out of existence. Time here is a flickering candle. Now picture a photon crossing a Planck length. A journey so brief, it might as well be eternal. Here, gravity shakes hands with chaos. Matter dances with antimatter. Now, dissolves into probability. The paradox? Our reality. The steady march of clocks, the certainty of sunrise, is built atop this tempest. The ground of time you trust is an illusion, a mirage woven from countless Planck-scale instants, each too small to measure. Yet together, they spin the tapestry of existence. But what if you could peer into this chaos? Would you see the gears of the cosmos, or only questions? If time is granular, like sand, do choices slip through its cracks? Are decisions illusions, predetermined by quantum dice tossed in these vanishing moments? Or does the Planck realm grant us freedom, a loophole in fate's script? Consider this. Every decision you've ever made echoes from this quantum abyss. A Planck-scale tremor becomes a lifetime's consequence. A virtual particle's whim becomes a galaxy's fate. The universe is both clock and chaos, order and entropy, a poem written in static. Yet here's the twist. We are blind to the storm. Our senses smooth the quantum frenzy into calm. We call it time. We call it reality. But what if we're painting over the cracks? As you drift into sleep, let this linger. The Planck time paradox is not a flaw, but a mirror. It reflects the limits of our understanding, the border where science meets the sublime. What lies beyond that border? Perhaps time is a language we've yet to decipher. Each Planck moment, a syllable. Each second, an epic. So tonight, ask yourself, if reality is stitched from these fleeting instants, who holds the needle? And when the final Planck second ticks, will the universe exhale or begin anew? The heat-death paradox. What if the universe forgets how to end? Imagine a flame fading to embers, embers cooling to ash, ash dissolving into a void so vast and silent it forgets it ever burned. The heat-death paradox is not an apocalypse. It's an elegy, a slow exhale into nothingness, where time itself becomes a fossil, and existence becomes a memory of itself. Close your eyes. Listen. The stars are humming their final lullaby. Reality runs on fire. Stars devour themselves to shine. Life feasts on chaos to survive. But entropy always wins. The universe, they say, is expanding into a cold, dark grave, a state where energy is everywhere and nowhere. No heat, no light, no difference. Just a sea of sameness, stretching forever. But here's the twist. If all energy is equal, does the universe die or become immortal? Picture this. 1 trillion years from now. The last black hole evaporates. The last proton decays. The last flicker of warmth fades. What remains? Not darkness, but a grey, featureless ocean. No hot, no cold, no anything. Just equilibrium. Perfect. Eternal. Dead. The heat. Death paradox whispers, the universe's demise is not an explosion, but a sigh. Some say it's inevitable, a law written into the fabric of reality. Entropy must rise, energy must scatter. But here's the haunting question. Why did the universe bother to exist at all? If all stories end in ash, why write them? If all life is a temporary spark against the void, why spark? Now imagine a darker truth. A scientist discovers a way to reverse entropy. She builds a machine, twists the laws of physics. And for a moment, heat returns. Light flickers. But the machine requires more energy than the dying universe can spare. To create a flame, she must steal it from the future. The cure accelerates the disease. The paradox tightens. That campfire you lit last winter, the sweat on your skin after a run, the rage of a supernova, they're all battles against entropy. Temporary victories in a war the universe has already lost. But here's the chilling beauty. Without heat death, there could be no life. Entropy's rise carves valleys in time, peaks of order where life briefly blooms. You are not a rebel, but a symptom, a flicker of wrongness in a universe yearning to be right. Now go deeper. What if heat death is not an end, but a transformation? What if the universe, in its final uniformity, becomes the seed of a new Big Bang? A phoenix that forgets to rise. A loop where death births life, and life births death, forever. So here's the question that splits the soul. If the universe dies, does it matter that we existed? Or is meaning itself a mirage, a story we tell to distract from the void? The heat-death paradox offers no comfort, only a whisper. You are made of stardust, and stardust is made of endings. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if the universe's final breath is the first note of a song no one will hear? And what if that's enough? The infinite time paradox. What if every moment you've lived has already happened infinite times? Imagine an hourglass taller than the cosmos, its sands counting not seconds, but eternities. The infinite time paradox asks, if time is endless, does everything possible become inevitable or meaningless? Close your eyes. Listen. The tick of the clock isn't moving forward. It's spiraling. Reality clings to finitude. Lives end. Stars burn out. Stories close. But infinity mocks these endings. Given enough time, truly endless time, every particle, every thought, every breath will repeat. Not once, not twice, but infinitely. You will laugh this laugh again. You will cry these tears. You will read these words. Forever. But here's the twist. If all things recur, does anything ever truly happen? Picture this. A library that contains every possible book, every romance, every tragedy, every lie, every truth. Now imagine that library is time itself. In infinite time, every book is written, read, burned, and rewritten. The same wars, the same loves, the same dawns and dusks, a symphony of repetition, where even originality becomes a refrain. Some say this is hell, a prison of echoes. Others call it divinity, proof that nothing is ever lost. But the paradox festers. If every choice, every chance, every life is inevitable, then is freedom an illusion? Are we actors reciting lines from a script older than time, or is time itself the actor, performing us? Now imagine a darker thread. A woman writes a letter to her future self, pleading for hope. Centuries later, her descendant finds the letter and writes the same words, sending them backward. The loop closes. The letter has no author, only infinite authors, no origin, only destinations. The infinite time paradox thrives in the silence between heartbeats. That dream where you relive a childhood memory, but with different faces. The stranger who feels like a reflection you've met in another life. The déjà vu that clings like a scar you don't remember earning. What if they're not glitches, but glimpses of the infinite? Consider this. A man spends eternity trying to solve a riddle. After 1,000,000,000 years, he succeeds, only to forget the answer and begin again. His triumph and failure are the same moment. Infinite time turns progress into a treadmill and meaning into a shadow. Now go deeper. What if you are the riddle, the love you seek, the regrets you carry, the secrets you bury? They've existed before. They'll exist again. You are not living a life. You are redrawing a blueprint etched into the bones of eternity. Here's the chilling truth. If time is infinite, then every horror and every miracle is guaranteed. The child you saved today, you've failed to save infinite times. The war that ends in peace has raged forever. The universe is not cruel or kind. It is bored, a god replaying its favorite game, desperate to feel something new. But wait, there's a flaw, a glimmer. A woman in an infinite timeline chooses differently, just once. She turns left instead of right, loves instead of hates, creates instead of destroys. The universe gasps. For a moment, infinity holds its breath. Then, the hourglass flips. The loop resets. Her choice vanishes, like a tear in an ocean. So here's the question that splits existence. If infinite time erases all meaning, does that make life worthless or infinitely precious? Are we specks of dust in an eternal storm, or the storm itself? The infinite time paradox offers no answers, only a whisper. You have lived this life before, and you will live it again. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if the only way to break the loop is to believe you can? And what if you already do? The remembered future. What if your memories aren't from the past, but the future? What if déjà vu isn't a glitch? It's a prophecy etched into your mind, a whisper from a tomorrow you've already lived but can't yet name. This is the remembered future, a paradox where time folds like origami, and the mind becomes a bridge between what was, what is, and what will be. Close your eyes. Imagine a diary filled with blank pages. You open it one morning and find entries already written. Stories of days that haven't happened. Names of people you've never met. Your handwriting. Your tears staining the paper. You dismiss it as a dream. But days later, the diary's predictions unfold. A stranger speaks the exact words you read. Rain falls in rhythms the pages described. You realize, these aren't predictions, they're memories. But how? The paradox deepens. You meet someone new and feel an ache of familiarity, as if you've loved them for lifetimes. You walk a street you've never seen, yet know every crack in the pavement. You speak words that feel rehearsed, though you've never said them aloud. Science calls this fantasy. But what if it's physics? If time is not a line, but a labyrinth, could fragments of the future bleed backward, nesting in your mind like ancient instincts? Could memory be a two-way street? Consider this. A man wakes screaming, haunted by a vision of his own funeral. He changes nothing. The vision comes true. Another man dreams of a plane crashing. He avoids the flight. The plane lands safely. Two futures, two memories. Which is real? The universe offers no answers, only echoes. Now go deeper. What if every choice you make is guided by shadows of futures you've forgotten? That job you rejected, the kiss you didn't share, the road you didn't take. Are these regrets or relics of paths your other selves walked? The remembered future is not prophecy, it's recursion, a loop where cause and effect hold hands and dance in circles. You remember tomorrow because, in some vanished timeline, you lived it. But here's the twist. These memories are not passive. They shape you. A child, terrified of water, drowns in every dream, then learns to swim at 7. A woman hears a symphony in her sleep and hums it decades before it's composed. Are we haunted by ghosts of our own becoming? The paradox tightens. A scientist fires particles into a maze of mirrors. They behave as if they've already seen the maze's end. A rat in a labyrinth finds the exit faster each time, as if recalling a future trial. Time, it seems, is a student of itself. But what does this mean for you? That gut feeling, that inexplicable certainty, that nightmare you can't shake. Are they warnings? Or memories of futures you've already erased? As you drift into sleep, consider this. Your mind is a vault of unborn moments. Every dream, every flash of intuition, every déjà vu, they are postcards from futures that never were or will be. So tonight, ask yourself, when you wake tomorrow, will it be for the first time or the thousandth? The brain in time paradox. What if the clock you hear ticking isn't in the world, but inside your skull? Close your eyes. The seconds, minutes, hours you feel passing, are they real or a story your brain tells itself? The brain in time paradox unravels a secret. Time is not a river you float on, but a sea you conjure. Reality insists time is fixed. Sunrises march forward, seasons cycle, clocks dictate our days. But your brain, it bends time, stretches it, shrinks it, makes a mockery of minutes. An hour in traffic feels like a lifetime. A decade with a lover feels like a breath. The paradox is this: time is absolute until it enters your mind. Picture this: a man survives a car crash. As his vehicle flips, time slows. He sees shattered glass hang like diamonds, feels the air thick as syrup, counts each heartbeat like a drum solo. But the crash lasted 2 seconds. His brain, drowning in adrenaline, rewrote time to save him. How? Your brain is not a clock. It's a time traveler. It edits memories, predicts futures, and stitches them into a fragile now. When you remember your first kiss, you're not recalling the past, you're rebuilding it. When you dread tomorrow, you're not seeing the future, you're hallucinating it. The present? Just a hologram, projected by a brain desperate to make sense of chaos. Now imagine a darker thread. A woman with brain damage loses her sense of time. For her, yesterday blurs into tomorrow. She meets a stranger and swears she's known them for years. She reads a book and forgets she wrote it. Her brain, unmoored from time's illusion, floats in a soup of moments. Past, present, future, all one. Is she broken or free? The brain in time paradox thrives in your déjà vu. That alleyway you've never walked, but know you have. The conversation that replays like a script before the words are spoken. The dream that bleeds into waking until you can't tell which is real. What if these aren't glitches, but glimpses of your brain's raw power? Proof that time is clay and your mind, the sculptor. Consider this. Scientists zap a neuron and erase your sense of before and after. You live in an endless now. No regrets, no plans, just a single suffocating moment. Is this enlightenment or a prison? Now go deeper. What if you are the paradox? That deadline that looms like a monster, the childhood summer that stretches into myth, the endless wait for bad news. They're not real, they're fictions, spun by a brain that craves control, a brain that would rather fear a future than admit it doesn't exist. Here's the chilling truth. If your brain creates time, then time can be uncreated. When you sleep, when you meditate, when you lose yourself in a kiss, time dies. And in those gaps, what remains? A void or the truth? So here's the question that splits the soul. If time is a story, who is the author? Are you the writer or the character? When you close your eyes tonight, will the clock still tick, or will it wait, breathless, for your permission to continue? The brain in time paradox offers no answers, only a mirror, reflecting the greatest riddle of all. You. Mandela Effect. Have you ever sworn a memory was true, only to find it never existed? A name spelled wrong, a line misquoted, a logo that changed overnight. You're not alone. You've brushed against the Mandela Effect, a glitch in the collective mind where thousands remember a reality that never was. Close your eyes. Picture Nelson Mandela. Many recall his death in a prison cell in the 1980s, mourned it, studied it in textbooks, but he died in 2013, decades after his release. How? Why do so many share this phantom memory? Now look closer. The Berenstain Bears. But you remember Berenstein. A childhood bookcase insists it. So does your mother. Yet the name was always Berenstain. The E vanished. Or did it ever exist? The Monopoly man wears a top hat, cane, and monocle, doesn't he? He doesn't. The monocle is a ghost, a figment shared by millions. Luke, I am your father. Except Darth Vader never said that. The real line, no, I am your father. Yet the misquote feels carved into cultural stone. Are these mistakes or cracks in reality? Science offers theories, false memories, seeded by suggestion, neural patterns misfiring. But why do identical errors bloom worldwide, in minds that never met? Some whisper darker truths, parallel universes bleeding into ours, timelines merging, tangling memories like crossed wires, a simulation glitching, its code rewritten but not forgotten. Consider this. What if reality is a tapestry fraying at the edges, every false memory a tug on the thread? The Mandela Effect isn't about misremembering, it's about collapsing, a silent war between what's real and what's remembered. Now ask yourself, what do you misremember? The fruit of the Loom logo. Was there a cornucopia? Spoiler, no. C3PO's leg. Was it always silver? Yes, but millions recall gold. These aren't trivial. They're tremors, proof that consensus reality is fragile, a shared hallucination we call truth. But here's the twist. The Mandela Effect forces a choice. Do you trust the world or your mind? Do you dismiss the dissonance or dare to question? As you drift to sleep tonight, wonder, what else has shifted? What truths have you collectively invented? And if reality is so malleable, who's bending it? Temporal perception. What if the clock in your mind ticks to a different rhythm than the world's? Imagine a minute that drags like a decade, or a year that vanishes like a sigh. Temporal perception is the ghost in the machine of time, a riddle where seconds stretch and shrink, not by the universe's laws, but by the whims of your brain. Close your eyes. Listen. The clock on the wall ticks steadily, but the one in your chest races. Which is real? Reality insists time is fixed. A minute is 60 seconds. A day is 24 hours. A lifetime is a blink to the cosmos. But your mind, it mocks these rules. An hour trapped in traffic feels like a prison sentence. An hour with a lover feels like a breath. Time doesn't change. You do. Picture this. A man freezes mid-step, heart pounding, as a car skids toward him. The world slows. He counts the cracks in the windshield, feels the grit of the pavement beneath him, hears his pulse thrash like a drum. Later, he learns the near-death moment lasted 1 second. His brain, drowning in adrenaline, stretched time like taffy to give him a chance to survive. But here's the twist. Did time slow, or did his mind speed up? The answer is both, and neither. Temporal perception is not a clock. It's a storyteller. When you're bored, your brain yawns, and time stalls. When you're terrified, your brain screams, and time shatters. When you're in love, your brain hums, and time evaporates. You don't feel time, you feel your attention. Now imagine a darker thread. A woman spends years in isolation. Days blur, nights dissolve. She stares at a wall until it becomes a calendar, then a mirror, then a void. Her brain, starved of novelty, stops marking time. She lives 1,000 years in a month, or a month in 1,000 years. She no longer knows. Temporal perception thrives in the gaps between memory and moment. That summer of your childhood that feels eternal in hindsight. The work meeting that refuses to end. The final seconds before a kiss. What if they're not real? What if they're illusions, crafted by a brain desperate to make sense of chaos? Consider this. A musician loses herself in a song. Hours vanish. When she finishes, she swears only minutes passed. Her brain, drunk on dopamine, silenced the clock. For her, time bent. Now go deeper. What if you are the illusion? The deadlines, the anniversaries, the countdowns, they're not cages, they're stories. Your brain weaves past and future into a fragile now. A hologram you call time. That meeting you dread tomorrow, the birthday you'll forget, the grief you'll carry next year. They don't exist. They're shadows, cast by a mind that craves control. Here's the chilling truth. If your brain creates time, it can also destroy it. In deep sleep, in meditation, in shock, time dies. And in those voids, What remains? A truth your brain won't let you see, or a silence too vast to comprehend? So here's the question that splits the soul. If time is a river, are you the swimmer or the current? When you close your eyes tonight, will the clock still tick, or will it pause, waiting for you to decide? Temporal perception offers no answers, only a mirror, reflecting the greatest paradox of all. You are both the prisoner and the key. Observer, time. Paradox. What if time does not flow, but waits? What if the universe pauses, breathless, until you choose to look, and in that glance, it crystallizes into history? This is the observer-time paradox, a riddle where the act of seeing bends the arrow of time, and the past, present, and future are clay in the hands of perception. Close your eyes. Imagine a particle, a speck of light, flying through a detector. If you watch, it behaves like a bullet, precise, predictable. If you turn away, it becomes a wave, spread out, infinite. The particle knows. It changes its nature to meet your gaze. But here's the mystery. When does it choose? At the moment of measurement, or retroactively, rewriting its path through time to align with your observation? Science calls this quantum retrocausality. Poets call it magic. Now go deeper. Picture a laboratory in 2023. Scientists split a photon and send half into a maze of mirrors. They wait. Years later, they decide how to measure the photon's twin. The results? The past photon's path changes, decades after it was emitted. The future alters the past. The observer becomes a time traveler. But what does this mean for you? That decision you regret? That accident you narrowly avoided? That kiss you still feel on your lips? Are they fixed points? Or fluid, reshaped every time you remember them? The paradox tightens. In your childhood home, a clock ticks on the wall. You stare at it, and it moves. You look away, and it hesitates. You've felt this, time dragging when bored, racing when in love. Is this illusion or insight? The observer-time paradox whispers, time is not a river. It is a hall of mirrors. Your consciousness, the flashlight, determines which reflections become real. The present is a negotiation between what you witness and what you ignore. Consider this. A tree falls in a forest. You've heard the old riddle. Does it make a sound if no one hears? But the deeper question is, when does it fall? Without an observer, does it hover in quantum limbo, fallen and standing, decayed and alive, until a hiker stumbles upon the wreckage and collapses time into a single truth? Now scale this to your life. That job interview where you choked, the train you missed, the stranger who smiled at you on a Tuesday. Are these events fixed, or do they remain spectral possibilities until you recall them, polishing one version into memory while erasing the rest? The universe offers no comfort, only clues. In 2015, physicists proved particles could be entangled across time. Two photons, separated by years, influencing each other's states. The past and future, bound in a dance no watch can measure. But here's the twist. You are entangled too. Your choices ripple backward and forward. The apology you'll offer tomorrow might already be healing yesterday's wound. The lie you told a decade ago could be tilting a yet unborn star. The observer-time paradox dissolves free will and fate into a single question. Are you shaping time, or is time shaping you? As you drift into sleep, consider this. Your memories are not fossils. They are choices. Every time you revisit them, you edit the script. The breakup that hardened your heart, it might have been softer. The victory that defined you, it might have been a loss. Reality is not a recording. It's a live performance, and you hold the cue cards. So tonight, as you lie in the dark, ask yourself, if time waits for no one, why does it wait for you? And when you wake tomorrow, will you meet the day or create it? Time crystal paradox. What if the ticking of the clock isn't just counting seconds, but entire universes? Imagine a gem that doesn't sparkle in light, but in time. A crystal that pulses, not to the rhythm of the world, but to a beat only it can hear. This is the time crystal paradox, a fracture in the laws of physics, where matter dances to the tune of eternity, and time itself becomes a hall of mirrors. Close your eyes. Listen. The silence between seconds isn't empty. It's alive. In 2012, scientists dreamed of a new phase of matter, not solid, liquid, or gas, but something stranger, a time crystal. Unlike diamonds or snowflakes, its beauty isn't in its symmetry, but in its motion. It pulses, oscillates, rewinds, forever, without energy. A clock that winds itself, a flame that needs no fuel, a heartbeat in the corpse of entropy. But here's the twist. How can something move without ever moving? The answer defies reality. Time crystals break the oldest rule, the arrow of time. They exist in a loop, repeating their structure not just in space, but in time. A second for us is a lifetime for them. They breathe in the gaps between moments, untouched by decay. A paradox made tangible. Picture this, a diamond forged not in Earth's crust, but in the heart of a quantum computer. Its atoms don't rest, they dance. Spin left, spin right, spin left again. A choreography older than the universe. Scientists watch, breathless, as the diamond pulses like a star. Long after the machine is turned off. It shouldn't exist. Physics demands stillness. Energy fades. Motion dies. Entropy always wins. But the time crystal laughs. It spins on, not despite the universe, but because of it. A parasite feeding on time's arrow. A snake that swallows its tail and grows stronger. Now imagine a darker thread. A time crystal isn't a gem, but a grain of sand. A speck so small, it slips through the cracks of reality. It enters our world and starts to spin. Slowly at first, then faster. It infects the air, the water, the flesh. Soon, everything pulses in rhythm. Hearts beat backward, clocks melt, memories unravel. The universe becomes a chorus of loops, singing a song with no beginning and no end. The time crystal paradox thrives in the silence of labs and the noise of your mind. That déjà vu you can't shake. The dream where you relive a moment you've never lived. The nagging sense that today is a copy of yesterday. What if they're not glitches, but echoes, ripples from a crystal you can't see? Here's the chilling truth. If time crystals are real, then we might be the paradox. Our bodies, atoms spinning in fragile order. Our lives, loops of habit, love, and loss. Are we creatures of time, or time's creatures? So here's the question that splits existence. If a speck of matter can defy entropy, what does that make us? Are we pilgrims on time's arrow, or patterns in a crystal, repeating, repeating, repeating? The time crystal paradox offers no answers, only a whisper. You are both the dancer and the dance. The faster-than-light paradox. What if the universe has a speed limit, one that binds light itself? And what if breaking it unravels reality? Imagine a starship piercing the cosmic veil, leaving stardust in its wake. For a heartbeat, you outrace time. Then, silence. The universe holds its breath. Einstein's wall stands. Nothing can exceed light's speed. But what if it's not a wall, but a mirror? What if the price of breaking light's law is not oblivion, but paradox? Close your eyes. Picture a beacon glowing on a distant planet. You press a button, and a message arrives there instantly. To you, it's a miracle. To the universe, it's a wound. For if information outruns light, cause and effect crumble. The reply could reach you before you sent it. The message becomes its own author. Time becomes a Mobius strip. But here's the twist. You've already done this. Particles, entangled across galaxies, dance in perfect sync. A spin here, a spin there, no delay. Einstein called it spooky action. But what if it's a clue? A hint that somewhere, beyond our grasp, light's rule is bent, or rewritten. Now go darker. A ship accelerates. Relativity says its mass balloons. Time slows. At light speed, time stops. Beyond it, time flows backward. You arrive before you left. You meet your mother before your birth. You erase yourself. A paradox blooms. But how? If time travel is possible, where are the tourists from tomorrow? The silence screams, something's wrong. Science fiction offers warp drives, wormholes, bridges across space-time. But physics whispers, these require energy from stars, matter denser than atoms, or a cheat, a loophole, a way to fold the road so you never truly outrun light. You move the universe, not the ship. Yet the paradox remains. Even a folded path risks ripping causality's fabric. A single FTL jump could birth infinite timelines, alternate worlds where your arrival ignites wars, prevents apocalypses, or erases love. But here's the haunting truth. We crave this. The dream of touching the stars, of reuniting with lost voices, of rewriting regrets. The universe dangles FTL like a forbidden fruit. Take it, it taunts, but pay the price. Consider this. Every night, you gaze at stars dead for millennia. Their light is a eulogy. What if FTL lets you see them alive? To witness the past not as history, but as a destination. Would you go? Could you bear to see Earth as a molten cradle, dinosaurs ruling, your birth millennia unborn? The paradox is not just physical, it's existential. To outrun light is to outrun yourself, to scatter your identity across time like stardust. Now ask, what if we've already done it? What if dark matter, dark energy, the universe's ghosts, are echoes of civilizations that shattered light's law? Their experiments gone wrong, their timelines collapsed into cosmic static. Or worse, what if we're alone, the only ones reckless enough to try? As you drift into sleep, let this linger. The speed of light is not a barrier. It's a riddle, a test, a way the universe asks, how much are you willing to lose to grasp the stars? So tonight, wonder, if you could step onto a ship and vanish into light's wake, would you? Or does the true paradox lie not in physics, but in the human heart? This is the black hole information paradox. What if the universe is a library, and black holes are its arsonists? Imagine tossing a book into a fire. The pages burn, the words vanish. But what if the story remains, hidden in the smoke, encoded in the ashes, a riddle that haunts the edges of physics? This is the black hole information paradox, a silent war between quantum law and cosmic oblivion. Close your eyes. Picture a star collapsing. Gravity's fist crushes it into a singularity, a point of infinite density. A black hole is born. Now, toss a secret into its abyss, a love letter, a symphony, the recipe for your grandmother's pie. According to Einstein, it's gone, erased. The singularity shreds matter, energy, meaning into nothingness. But quantum physics screams, no, information cannot die. It can twist, hide, transform, but never vanish. The universe remembers. Enter Hawking radiation. Black holes glow. They leak particles. Over eons, they evaporate. But if the whole vanishes, where is the information? Trapped in the ash? Lost in the void? Or echoing in the radiation's static? The paradox deepens. Two realities collide. Quantum immortality. Information is sacred, indestructible. Cosmic censorship. The singularity is a vault. Its secrets, locked behind an event horizon. Choose a side. If information survives, how? Does it cling to Hawking's particles like graffiti on light? If so, the radiation is a scrambled telegram, a message so mangled even the universe can't decode it. If information dies, physics shatters. The quantum rulebook burns. Now, imagine a twist. What if the event horizon isn't a smooth veil, but a firewall? A wall of searing energy that incinerates all it touches. The information isn't lost, it's annihilated. But this violates relativity, which insists the horizon is unremarkable, a silent point of no return. The paradox becomes a hall of mirrors. Every solution births a new riddle, some whisper of holograms. Perhaps the information isn't in the black hole, but etched onto its surface. A 2D code storing 3D truths. The universe, a holographic prison. Others dream of baby universes. The black hole births a new cosmos, carrying the information like a mother's whisper. But this is faith, not proof. Here's the truth that chills. Black holes are not monsters. They're prophets. They force us to confront the fragility of our theories, the hubris of our equations. As you drift into sleep, ask, what if every black hole is a question mark, a cosmic why carved into space-time? And what if the answer isn't out there, but in here, buried in the quantum code of your mind? Big Bang Time Paradox. What if the universe's origin story is also its greatest riddle? Imagine a clock that begins ticking after it's already counting, a song that starts mid-note, with no composer, no conductor. just a scream frozen in the dark. The Big Bang Time Paradox asks, how can time exist if time itself was born from the explosion that created it? Close your eyes. Listen. The silence before the Big Bang isn't silence. It's a question. Science paints the Big Bang as the dawn of everything. 13.8 billion years ago, a singularity erupted, birthing time, space, and matter. But here's the twist. What does before mean? If time didn't exist yet, the paradox festers like a wound. If the Big Bang was the start of time, then there is no before, no cause, no reason, just a primal yes echoing in a void that wasn't even a void. Yet how can something come from nothing, when nothing didn't exist either? Picture this, a film reel of the universe. Play it forward. Galaxies swirl, stars ignite, life blooms. Play it backward. Everything collapses into a single point. But at the first frame, the Big Bang, the film melts. No projector, no screen, just light trapped in a loop of its own birth. Some say time is the universe's first child, born screaming from the bang. Others argue time is an illusion, a story we tell to explain entropy's rise. But the paradox remains. If time began with the Big Bang, then the bang itself exists outside time. A parentless parent, a creator that created itself. Now imagine a darker thread. A physicist discovers equations proving the Big Bang was not the beginning, but a rebound. A previous universe collapsed, and this one is its echo. But if time is cyclical, where did the first cycle begin? The equations crumble. The answer retreats, like a shadow fleeing light. The Big Bang Time Paradox thrives in the cracks of your reality. That dream where you fall endlessly. The déjà vu that feels older than your bones. The childhood fear of a void before birth. What if they're not fears, but memories, echoes of a time before time? Consider this. Entropy, the universe's slide into chaos, gives time its arrow. But if entropy started at the Big Bang, then time's arrow is a symptom, not a law. The universe is a wound, bleeding seconds into eternity. Now go deeper. What if you are the paradox? Your atoms, forged in dead stars, carry the bang's fingerprint. Your heartbeat, an echo of the first explosion. Your life, a subplot in a story that forgot its prologue. Here's the chilling truth. If the Big Bang birthed time, then we are orphans of causality. Every choice you make, every star you see, every breath you take, is a ripple in a river that sprang from nowhere. You are not just living in time, you are time's scream, reverberating into a void that never asked to exist. So here's the question that splits existence. If time had no beginning, does it have meaning? Or is it a bridge stretched over an abyss, with no pillars, no end? The Big Bang Time Paradox offers no answers, only a whisper. You are the universe's way of remembering. It once began. As you drift tonight, wonder this. What if the Big Bang never ended? What if we're still inside it, and the expanding cosmos is just the explosion's slow-motion scream? Sleep well. The void is listening, and it's hungry. So, is the statement true? Or is it false? Or perhaps, it's something beyond our understanding? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if your mind isn't broken yet, stick around for more paradoxes that will make you question reality.